Hi, I'm Sam from Guitar Academy. In today's video lesson we're going to be looking at 9th chords. We're going to be looking at major 9, minor 9 and dominant 9 chords. I'll also show you two ways how to play each of those chords. So the first chord we're going to look at is a major 9 chord with the root note found on the thickest E string. Later on in the video I'm going to show you how to move that chord around the neck, and then that will determine whether it's an A major 9, B major 9 or a C major 9 and so on. So the first thing we have to do is take our first finger and bar across the 4th fret of the A, D and the G string. Now take your second finger and place that on the 5th fret of the thickest E string. Then take your third finger and place that on the 6th fret of the D string. Now when you strum this chord, make sure you strum from the E string down to the G string. There we have our A major 9 chord. The next chord we're going to look at is a D major 9. Now this one, we will have the root note on the A string. So take your first finger and place that on the 4th fret of the D string. Take your second finger and place that on the 5th fret of the A string. Then take your third finger and place that on the 5th fret of the B string. And then take your little finger and place that on the 6th fret of the G string. Now when we strum this chord, we want to strum from the A string through to the B string. So there we have two shapes for a major 9 chord. Okay, so now let's take a look at the minor 9 chords. Now I'm going to give you the example of A minor 9. Now to play this chord, we're going to bar across the 5th fret of all 6 strings. We are then going to take our third finger and place that on the 7th fret of the A string. We are then going to take our little finger and place that on the 7th fret of the thinnest E string. Now play all 6 strings. Okay, so now let's take a look at a minor 9 chord with the root note on the A string. So, take your first finger and place that on the 3rd fret of the D string. Take your second finger and place that on the 5th fret of the A string. Take finger number 3 and place that on the 5th fret of the G string, and finger number 4 and place that on the 5th fret of the B string. Now this is the example of D minor 9. To play this chord correctly, all we need to do is strum from the A string down to the B string. Okay, so now let's have a look at the dominant 9 shapes. Now the first shape I'm going to show you has the root note on the thickest E string. Now to play this chord, we bar across the 5th fret, and again we're going to do this in the example of A dominant 9. So taking our first finger and barring across all 6 strings of the 5th fret, take your second finger and place that on the 6th fret of the G string. Now our third finger is going to go on the 7th fret of the A string, and your little finger is going to go on the 7th fret of the thinnest E string. Now strum all 6 strings. Here we have an A dominant 9 chord. Now the last chord I'm going to show you is a dominant 9 chord with the root note on the A string. Now this is the example of D dominant 9. Take your first finger and place that on the 4th fret of the D string. Your second finger is then going to go on the 5th fret of the A string. Now, take your third finger and place that on the 5th fret of the G string, and your little finger is going to go on the 5th fret of the B string. Now to play this correctly, all we need to do is strum from the A string through to the B string. There we have a D dominant 9. So let's take a look at what makes up these 9 chords. If we go back to our major 9 chord, let's have that with the root note on the A string. You can see here that we have the root, the major third, the major 7, and the 9. Now let's take a look what makes up a minor 9 chord. Root note on the A string. We have the root note, the minor third, the flat 7, and the 9. Now let's take a look at a dominant 9 chord. Root note on the A string. We have the root, we have the major third, we have a flattened 7, and then we have the 9. Okay, so now let's take a look at moving some of these chords around the neck. If we go to our first chord we looked at, which was our major 9 with the root on the E string. Now earlier I gave you the example of A major 9. If we moved that up 2 frets, 1, 2, we would then have a B major 9. As our lowest note here is a B note. Now I can turn that into a B minor 9 chord by applying the minor 9 shape whilst keeping that same root note. And I can turn it into a dominant 9 chord by just simply putting my second finger down on the 8th fret of the G string. There you would have a B dominant 9. So now let's take a look at the A shapes. Going back to my first shape, now earlier I gave you the example of D major 9. Now if we move that up a tone, 2 frets, 1, 2, we would then have an E major 9. As our lowest note, our root note is on an E note. Now if I kept that same root note, but then turned it into a minor 9 shape, you would have an E minor 9. And if I turn that into a dominant shape whilst keeping the same root note, we would have an E dominant 9. So there we have our major 9, our minor 9, and our dominant 9 chords. And I've given you 2 ways how to play each of those chords. I'm Sam from Guitar Academy. Thanks for watching.